Welcome back to our channel.
We're the Dawnties.
My name's Rochelle.
I'm your favorite Donna.
And today we're going to kind of walk you through the book event that we went to with Taylor Jenkins Reid. So we did not include any clips of us actually being there and Taylor Jenkins Reid talking. So if you want to know what she was asked or see what her answers are talking about this book and her other works and about her as a person and her process and all of the fun stuff, this is going to be the video for you. I'm just going to have the rest of this video be from the event where you can actually hear the author talking. Just know I love her even more. I love her so much. She's funny, she's witty, she's good with words. She's so humble. Like, come on, you are a very successful author. Brag about it a little bit. Like, enjoy it a little bit.
She don't want to.
Don't want to. So I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you in our next video.
Bye.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Winter, Director of Arts and Letters Live, the Literary and Performing Arts Series at the Dallas Museum of Art. I took a sneak peek at the ticket list this morning. So for those of you joining us from Oklahoma, Kansas, Louisiana, Washington State, Florida, Arizona, California, numerous other states, and too many cities, towns, and suburbs of Texas to mention here, welcome. We are thrilled to have you with us. The Harwood doors, also the San Jacinto doors, so there's no need for everyone to try and funnel out one particular door. One of the most successful novelists working today, Taylor's novels have sold more than 21 million print, ebook, and audiobook copies in 42 languages. I'm giving you a heads up to go ahead and cancel your weekend plans now that you have a copy of Atmosphere in hand. I plowed through this one in a couple of days and agree wholeheartedly with author Kristen Hanna's assessment that this compelling story of an ambitious young woman finding her voice and her passion is thrilling, heartbreaking, and uplifting. Please join me in a warm Dallas welcome for Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Welcome, everybody. Yes. Kudos to Michelle and to Jennifer and to Arts and Letters Live for this coup that we have here, getting Taylor Jenkins Reid to Dallas for the first time. Arts and Letters Live, 2 days after her birthday. All right, so Taylor, welcome to Dallas.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. This is incredible.
Yeah. And you all have your copies of Atmosphere, right? I am so excited for you to read this book. This book is incredible. You're going to love it, I know. So, Taylor, the book came out on Tuesday. So you just started your tour.
Yes.
Looking back at your backlist, this is the longest break that I noticed that you've taken, and you're like a book a year for like 5 years. And then you did Carrie Soto. 3 years is not a huge gap.
No.
How does it feel to be back?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great. And I think taking 3 years instead of 2 or 1, which is what I would normally do, has allowed me to recharge and refill my coffers. And so being here with you guys, I get to focus and be present and not be worried about all the other work that I have to do. I've rearranged my life to be able to enjoy this stuff more. And so I'm very happy to be here. And I also will just say that I love your shirt. And thank you for wearing it.
Yeah, and this is not a very extensive book tour, so once again, we are really lucky to be doing this. Okay, what's happening? So can you set it up for us?
Absolutely. Atmosphere is the story of Joan Goodwin. She is one of the first female astronauts to join NASA during the Space Shuttle program, when women were allowed to join the astronaut corps for the first time. And on mission STS-LR9, she is the role of Capcom, and that is the astronaut in mission control. It's also the only person that the crew on the shuttle can hear. So everything that happens in mission control is filtered through one voice. And on STS-LR9, that is Joan. But very early in the mission, something goes terribly wrong. And Joan has to guide the crew through this disaster, hoping that some of them survive. But what no one in mission control knows is that Joan is desperately in love with someone up on that shuttle. And she doesn't know how she can live with herself if she doesn't get them home. I think I sold that well. Right.
Okay, so I think I can speak for many of us when I say that we all really appreciate your strong female characters. That's very much so. You said before that you are interested in writing about women who excel in spaces traditionally dominated by men. So is that what drew you to this story of NASA's early class of women astronauts, or was it something else?
Yeah, that's where it started. I was thinking about, oftentimes I'm thinking, what are books that boys read, and how can we make it a book that girls read?
So our protagonist Joan struggles very much with herself in many ways, and she's being tasked with incredibly this intense program at NASA, joining something that women have historically not done before, with herself enough to trust herself to be able to do these things. And so I'm like, whoa. So this, and she does that because somebody, for the first time, truly and deeply loves her and sees her for all of the parts that she is.
That's right.
And so that kind of romantic mirroring to me is the dreamiest part of this love story. But I want to know for you, what makes a good love story?
Well, first thing I think that makes a good love story is just a really desperate amount of aching. And so this is a slow burn. And I think I wanted to put Joan through a lot of longing. And, but also, what really excited me about writing this story in particular, and this love story between these two people, was that I wanted it to be about the joy of falling in love and knowing that that person treats you well and respects you and sees you and is going to take your side. I've written a lot of love stories where everybody's super toxic. But I wanted this to be about joy. I wanted it to be about how it feels to find an undiscovered part of yourself and to know that this other person sees you the way you want to be seen. It's such a gift when someone that you respect respects you, someone that you think is so amazing thinks the same thing about you. And so I wanted to I just felt like Joan deserved a really positive love, and it felt good to write. She thinks that she knows herself. When we start the novel, she feels like she understands herself, and she's happy. And her understanding of the world is that other people have romantic love, but she's tried it, and it's just not for her. And she doesn't really look much further than that. It's the early 80s. She's not really prompted to look much further than that, and she's happy. And so it's only once she's pushed in these ways that she starts to look inward and she starts to find an inner strength, and she begins to fall in love. And I think that's part of what gives me great affection for Joan, is we get to hold her hand through this process as she starts to understand herself. But in understanding herself, she also realizes she's stronger than she thought she was. She is a lot cooler than she thought she was. She has her first beer. And also she's going to be tested in certain ways. There are going to be things that come up, things that she has tolerated from the people in her life that are going to come to a head, and she's going to have to decide if she can continue to tolerate them. And so I think it was, in some ways, it's a delayed adolescence for Joan. She's going through things and asking herself things and finding out that she likes herself and she has a lot of faith in herself and respects herself. And I think it's heartwarming to watch, hopefully. It was similar to Daisy Jones in the sense that it's like a ragtag army of people who all have their hang-ups and their issues, and behind the scenes, other people are sleeping together too. And so it was really fun to make up these characters, especially I love Joan and Vanessa, I'm really proud of them. I also really love Lydia. She's somebody who was a lot of fun to write. Griff is a character that I just love. I just love him. And I see him. I think sometimes there are just characters where I'm like, oh, I immediately get this guy and I know exactly what his deal is. Hank and Donna were also really fun. And then, there's some guys who are annoying, because that's always the case. And so, they become a family. These are people who are training together, and they're living in close quarters, and they're up on that space shuttle together, and that's part of how Joan finds her way.
So tell us about this. What, in terms of each character, each woman is handling these scenarios differently and has a different relationship with how they navigate the men in the program. So what were you trying to capture or convey here about the nature of this experience for these women? I know that's probably an act of imagination.
Yeah, well, I think that when we're coming back to that, a woman in a male-dominated world, you can't just be yourself, right? You represent all women, because they let you in the door, so you have to prove that all women can be let in the door. So how are you going to prove it? Are you going to be exactly like men? Are you going to do it exactly like they do, and that's how they'll respect you? Because you're going to lose everything innately, feminine about yourself to mimic what men like and what men respect, and that's how all women are going to earn respect of men? Or are you going to say, I deserve to be here, I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it, I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. There's a whole thing about like crying at work, and do you never cry at work because that's how you're going to show men that you belong there? Or do you say, well, I understand that you don't cry at work, sir, but I do, There's no easy answer, but I think one of the things I was able to talk about in the book is that I think a lot of times what can happen is that there is no easy answer, but a lot of times people want you to pick what they picked so that you can validate their choice. And then instead of, if you're saying don't cry at work and I'm saying do cry at work, and now I'm fighting with you about the fact that I should be able to cry at work, and you and I are now fighting, and because we don't agree with how to solve the problem, we're now distracted from the people that created the problem. And so Lydia and Joan have very different views on how to approach this, and I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to articulate both of those points of view. And the book doesn't really come down one way or another, but it does emphasize the point that like Joan and Lydia shouldn't be fighting. And it's that in this instance it's about men and women, but it applies to any scenario in which there's an in-group and an out-group or a disenfranchised group. It can get very easy to fight amongst us when we need to fight the problem.
I love that so much that you didn't condemn Lydia for the way that she approached what she had to contend with there.
I personally probably fall somewhere in the middle, but I've certainly had time. I worked in Hollywood in the early 2000s, and misogyny was like everywhere. It was very casual to just, the things directors would say about women in front of me, and the way I got through that was like, oh, well, I'm like you, buddy. Yeah, I totally get it. Like, we're the same, right? Because you're gonna respect me if I mimic you, whereas if I seem like those women, you're not going to. And it's how you get by. And it's right or it's wrong, I don't know. It's a rigged system, and I'm just trying to get out of here alive,
Yeah, absolutely agree with Taylor. And we're gonna do the audience questions now. We have 10 more minutes, 9 more minutes. Okay, so I went over the Google Doc, and Lauren wants to know, many of your main characters are women who are driven to succeed even at the cost of being unlikable. Can you speak about how you find these women in your creative process? And are there women from your own life that inspire this theme?
Yeah, I have to tell you when I say this, I have said this at other times and people they don't love it when I say this, but it is the truth. People aren't likable. None of us are likable. If you followed me throughout my day, there are times when you're like, ooh, we're just not. We're complicated and we do the wrong thing and we make mistakes and then we don't own up to it a lot of times. And we do something wrong and then we just never see that person again because we don't want to apologize. I think we are messed up. And I am writing people who are also messed up in the hopes that you understand you're not that messed up, honestly. You've never done anything as bad as someone Hugo did. You're fine. But I also think when it comes to women, it's like there's Evelyn Hugo's so unlikable, Carrie Soto's so unlikable, like Daisy Jones is so unlikable. Yeah, but also 90% of male characters are insufferable. And we love it. And so I'm just writing people as I know them to be, which is that they're really messy and they make a lot of mistakes and they sometimes don't really get what they did wrong until the very end. And so I'm writing people as I see them, and that means that I'm writing women as I see them. the women in my life are huge messes, and I love them to death for it.
Isabella wants to know, with so many of your previous novels becoming beloved bestsellers, did you feel any emotional weight or pressure when starting Atmosphere? And how do you let these expectations influence you or not in your process?
I feel certain types of pressure. I'm pretty good at keeping my relationship with the page pretty pure, which is to say, I know what I want to write, and my job is to make it as good as possible. The trepidation comes in when I realize then you're going to read it. It feels like, oh, I'm going to climb to the top of this mountain. That's totally fine. Just don't look down. And then publishing it is like, oh, I'm actually 2 miles up in the air and I'm going to fall. So there's that. But with this book in particular, I do feel pressure to make sure that when I'm writing a queer story in particular, that I'm writing something that can be helpful, that doesn't engage in harmful tropes, that has something to offer. And I take that very, very seriously. That's maybe a pressure that I put on myself, but there are always certain things about a book where I feel like I have to get this right. And that element of this book was true. But in general, I've always had a really amazing ability to not think about how stupid the thing I'm about to do is. And then only later be like, oh, that was pretty stupid. And I think like publishing a book is that. It's like, I'm writing so freely, and then later I'm like, oh, but everybody's gonna read it and they're all gonna know.
Well, and you have been praised for that, by the way, writing queer characters from Evelyn Hugo. And I know, again, it is going to happen again, because authors can be very reductive in their portrayals of queer characters, where they just become about that thing and that thing only. Or the inverse of that, where it's just a character trait, like eye color or something, and it's like a problem.
Right.
But not in your case. You are, in my opinion, excellent at writing queer characters, and I think you guys are going to find that to be the case here too. Yeah. Okay. Nicole wants to know, given your background in film, do you have actors in mind for Atmosphere?
I'm not answering that. I'm not stupid. The truth is that I don't yet, because we have an incredible writing directing team that is taking over. They are starting actually, I think like this week, to write the script, which is very exciting. And so we're super early days, and we haven't had the cast conversation yet. But I know that they're going to be sexy. That's what I know.
Well, and it's been announced, right, that this is the writing and directing duo of
Yeah,
Captain Marvel.
That's right. So it's Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck who directed Captain Marvel, which is really, really exciting. I was like, they know how to make really cool, like, female pilots. So let's just cut and paste that.
Yeah, it is going to be sexy, for sure. For sure. Okay, what time is it? Okay, maybe more time. All right, so I like this question. It's actually another Isabella. Isabella, where are you? Isabella, you submitted several questions. and I really wasn't going to ask multiple of your questions, but I actually like this one a lot, so I'm going to ask it. So, have readers ever interpreted one of your books in a way that sort of surprised you, that came unexpectedly?
Yeah, there are always times where I have to remember that once the book is printed, it's just as much yours as it is mine, you know, and my interpretation is not the same, is no more valid than anyone else's. So there are certain times where readers will be like, and then, clearly, this was about that, and I'm like, what? But the one that really meant a lot to me was, and part of it was because it was the first book that I wrote. Forever Interrupted is about a woman who loses her husband after they've only been married for 9 days. And the big theme of that novel is whether she had earned her grief, whether people would take her grief seriously because they had just met. And I got an email from a woman who had had a miscarriage. And and she said that the story helped her a lot because it felt like an allegory for what she had been through. And that was never something that had been on my mind, but it meant so much to me. First of all, it was the first book that I'd written, and only 5 people had read it. So 1 out of 5 liking it. I was like, okay, you've got a good ratio here. No, but it was a great moment for me to realize that the book can have meaning beyond my understanding of it, and it really meant a lot to me.
Which is a good one to end on, which is, who are you reading right now?
I love this question.
And what's your favorite book that you've read in the last year or so?
I love this question. So, I'm a huge fan of Emily Henry. I tore through it. I absolutely loved it. It's called Great Big Beautiful World. Jasmine Guillory, I'm a huge fan of. Flirting Lessons is A++++. I cannot say enough good things about it. There's a book that came out this year called Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. It's a gothic lesbian vampire situation. And I could not put it down. There was another one. Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. It's one of my favorite books that I have read in the past year. It is beautifully told. It's a fictionalized story of a real woman, Jessie Redmond Fawcett, who ran the NAACP's literary magazine, The Crisis, during the Harlem Renaissance. Her life is fascinating. The way she mentored so many incredible writers is fascinating. The book is beautifully written. And also, that's one of those ones, I really love audiobooks, and the audiobook I strongly recommend. The audio narrator, she sings during part of it, she recites poetry. I mean, it's a really wonderful experience. And I know that was the last question, we're talking about books, so I have one more thing to say, which is, in your books now, you will see there is a bookmark. The bookmark is from a company called Bink. It's a nonprofit organization. I'm gonna read to you what they do, because if I say it, I will get it wrong. Bink is a nonprofit that coordinates charitable programs to strengthen the book-selling community. Our core program provides assistance to employees and shop owners who have demonstrated financial need arising from severe hardship and/or emergency circumstances. During its inception, the organization has provided over $11 million in financial assistance and scholarships to more than 10,000 families. What Bink does, and it has meant a great deal to me this past year, is they show up for booksellers in moments of crisis. So when we had the wildfires in Los Angeles, bookstores had to close. Certain bookstores experienced a lot of damage. They would have closed, but Bink showed up and provided support. When Hurricane Helene hit last year, a lot of bookstores on the Eastern Seaboard were flooded. Bink showed up to help. We have to help independent bookstores because that's where we find our books. So I have donated to Bink. If there's a QR code on your bookmark, if everyone donates $1, we will, on this tour, in addition to what I donated, we will get to $5,000. So I would really love if you would consider donating $1 to Bink. And if it calls on you, New York, my last event, donated $1,900. And I think you're better than New York. So let's see if in Dallas we can beat New York. Thank you guys so much for coming.